Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Kathy Hester, and welcome to my kitchen. Most of you have been here before. I am the author of a lot of different vegan, plant-based cookbooks, and I run the sites plantbasedinstantpot.com and healthyslowcooking.com. I wanted to thank you for spending some time with me today. I know our weeks are a little different than they've been in the past, so what I would like to do this week is kind of have us come together and just do some simple things that we can do. And actually, this is a win-win for me for sure. And if you're here, please say hello and where you're from and how you're doing, how you're feeling if you want, or just how you're doing in general. We just ran out of Cruciferous Crunch, which is Trader Joe's, and I will let you, it's just a blend of shredded vegetables, and you can see right there, there's just kale, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, green cabbage, and red cabbage. So, though it's super nice, hi Joe, thanks for joining. It's super easy to make yourself, and right now I am desperately trying to clean up my fridge because we were in New Orleans, so I've got some older vegetables and some newer vegetables that just came in. And so what we're going to do is use some of the things that I already had, and I'm going to show you how to make your own Cruciferous Crunch. And then if you want to stay with me longer, I put up a picture of my Asian chopped salad that was kind of made with this mix with a chopped apple, and I'll show you how I did that as well. One of the things that's so good about this mix is that it's so healthy. And right now we're all trying to build our immune systems up, right? And have lots of antioxidants and fresh vegetables and fresh fruit because that's just going to give us more energy and make our lives a little bit better. Hi, Stat Vegan, and from Indiana. And I'm coming at you from North Carolina, from Durham. So one of the things that can seem like a pain is grating all these vegetables. So oh, my signal keeps stopping. It could be that so many people are online right now. So I don't know. Let's see if there's anything I can do on my side. Where is... I'm going to try and put some things down to one tab and see if that helps at all. Because that's about all I can do. And Cheryl, if you are doing anything that's live feed, can you try and stop that for a few minutes? Okay, thank you, and do tell me again. So what we're doing is we're going to make this using a food processor. I actually put away my food processor because I use it so little, but it's perfect for something like this. So I've done some prep. I've peeled, and I'll show you from under. I've peeled and chopped up a little bit of some carrots, mostly because they were a little bit old and they needed a little bit of help, and nobody needed to see that. Same thing, I just kind of put this into some chunks. These Brussels sprouts were much older than they should be, so I cut the very ends off that I did not want to eat because they weren't nice. If yours are nice, there's no reason to do this. And I cut them in half, mostly in case there were a couple of leaves that I wanted to take off because they were a little old. And this is one of the beauties of using cruciferous vegetables is they last longer. It takes them longer to go down. I got this cabbage this week. Is this not the most gorgeous cabbage? And it was 17 cents a pound. So I couldn't find my scale, but I think it's about 3 or 4 pounds. And then I'm going to show you how to do this with broccoli stems. So I've gotten some broccoli with long stems, and I've gone ahead with a couple of them, and I've already peeled them. But we'll peel these two together. And then I have some red kale that's doing okay. It is not the freshest kale of all, but it's going to be perfect. We're going to eat it fairly quickly. And instead of putting this through the food processor, that little broccoli broccoli wants to go over. We are going to actually hand chop this, and I'll get some things for that too. Okay, so it still keeps saying my broadcast has been paused off and on, and the video keeps stopping there. Thank you, Deborah and Jody from Michigan. We don't have a Trader Joe's. And we're just going to kind of keep going. Hopefully Cheryl will get off of Facebook maybe if she's on it. And let me go to this other computer, and I am going to just close down the browser. There shouldn't be much going on, but again, we're going to find with everybody being home, there's going to be a little more traffic on the web. So we'll deal with it as we can. Just ask me questions. If I go out, it's not telling me anything yet. So I'll try and keep, sorry to go away from you, but that's me checking to see if it says anything. So if you don't have a food processor, you certainly can do this by hand using a grater. Or, and I would grate for sure the carrots, the broccoli stems. With the cabbages and the Brussels sprouts, you can thinly slice them as well. Snap Vegan says the feed just keeps stopping. And look at the... Cheryl, can you check it to see if it's stopping for you? Okay. So let's just keep going. We're going to use the grater part. So usually we use the S blade, right, when we're working with our food processor. So there'll be something like this, and there's bigger holes and smaller holes. Bigger holes, smaller holes. So whichever one is up, and by up I mean, see how that goes up a little bit? That's the one that's going to grab the things as they're going. So if you want larger or smaller, it's up to you. So I'm going to try smaller for now. And I am going to come back here. And I still haven't heard anything from Cheryl, so I don't know what may or may not be going on this way. I do know it's plugged in and done properly. Ha! So food processors are a little messier to clean up, so when I use them, I want to like shred everything that I can. So I haven't really shred Brussels sprouts this way. So let's go ahead and try this. And I'm going to put it in the little part to test it. If it works well, maybe I'll put it with some more into the larger part that I can remove as well. And I'm going to pack this down pretty good. And I think you see better straight on.
You're not breaking up at all on mine.
Okay. So right now it's not breaking up on hers. So hopefully you guys are seeing me. I see that a few people are on. What we're doing is we're making Cruciferous Crunch copycat. And these are Brussels sprouts that we're going to do right now. And so I'm just going to press this down. And what you're going to see too is there are going to be some pieces that don't go. And personally, I'm okay with that. We'll see how much of it goes. Let's get this big part. Let's try it with the big part this time, since nothing bad happened. The worst thing that can happen is that it just doesn't grate up as much as you want it to. And right now, when I buy the Cruciferous Crunch, it's very large for me, and I actually use my little chopper knife and I chop it up when we're making salads. So I don't really care if it's perfect, if it's perfectly conformed. I am also trying to use the smaller grating part to see how I like that. We might decide next time to use the larger one. Okay, I'm going to still let these guys stay there for right now. Okay. This was about what a normal pack of Brussels sprouts would be. Let's see what we can do here. So I've still got a few in here. I'm going to take these little pieces out and see if I might be able to put them in one more time. And if not, I'm just going to throw them in there. Okay, great. And I still would love to know where you guys are and how you're doing. That's important to me. So let me know, because I see new people are coming on. Again, this is it's going to be in pieces and parts. What I like to do is to do each one individually and then store them separately. So that way I could throw a handful of anything that I wanted, and see, the harder I press down, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, this is going to do it. And you know, it pretty much did, except for one piece. And we're good with that. I'm good with that. I hope you are too. So I'm going to go ahead. The thing I don't like about modern food processors is that they have all this part here that everything gets stuck in. And I'm not going to be super OCD about it. I'm going to get out what I can. I'm also okay with everything mixing in because I'm probably going to mix it in together anyhow. So let me show you this in the other camera. See, there's some parts that are more sliced. This is still way smaller than what you would get if you were opening up a bag of Cruciferous Crunch. That is because I used a smaller grating blade, because typically I chop all that up. So I like having things chopped up small. I could stir this in at the end of a soup or a rice, put it in a tofu scramble. There are all different kinds of ways. If you are not a fan of some of these flavors, I find that mixing them together and putting some flavorful balsamic vinegars, or putting it, like we can make fried rice with this too. It just would be very, very easy. And I'll let you see underneath what this looks like. And I'm kind of saving my purples for last because that color is going to kind of take over everything. Okay, you guys see it in here? Let's see it above. And see, that was really not that much effort. And again, I had taken the ends off, cut them in half as my prep to do this. The reason I did that is these Brussels sprouts were a couple of weeks old. And I wanted to make sure I was cutting through and that I wasn't putting anything in here that kind of got lost in the mix that maybe I didn't want to eat. And that was it. That's the only reason I did it. So you can totally do it, especially if you have some nice fresh Brussels sprouts. You can totally just, if you have a bigger compartment like this, put them in whole. Now granted, some Brussels sprouts can be ginormous, so that's going to change depending on just how big it is. So let's keep with the little blade. And I think next I'm going to show you how I break down broccoli stems. And if you guys have any questions as we're going along. So these are the two that were broken down. So by broken down, I mean the top part's been cut off and saved for another use. And I've taken off this thickness. This thickness isn't nice to eat. So let me grab what I need to do that. So the first thing, we're just going to go ahead and cut this floury part off. And I am sticking all of those in a bag, and we will probably make broccoli with garlic sauce or a cream of broccoli soup with this. So I'm setting this aside, and I'm going to keep it in the fridge. Okay? Now if I wanted to, actually this little bit, I'm going to pop right in my mouth. Over here is kind of my trash container. I'm going to cut the bottoms of these off, because they're dry and a little gross, honestly. Okay. So some of this is going to break off anyhow if it's large enough. Something like this you can leave on. Those broccoli leaves are actually a superfood. And see, You just peel it like you would a potato or anything else. Honestly, I peeled the other stems because they were a couple of weeks old too, and they weren't looking so good. I didn't want you to see that. Nobody wanted to see that, trust me. Have you guys ever used broccoli stems? Or have you kind of always avoided getting the broccoli with the big broccoli stems because you felt like you were getting ripped off and not getting the good parts? And it's a valid point either way. So that one's done. Let's get this one done. So again, if you're just joining, I am peeling large, thick broccoli stems. Because if you take the peel off, they're delicious. And if you buy broccoli slaw, basically with what you're learning today, you can make your own broccoli slaw. You can make your own Cruciferous Crunch. You could get crazy and decide what some of your own blends are. As you get up in here, some is going to be thicker than others. So you just kind of decide how you feel. Are you okay with that little bit of extra fiber? Okay, so I wanted to show you that because if you're using something like Misfits Market or Hungry Harvest or one of those services, or if you're getting things from your local CSA or farmer's market, you might have extra things like that, extra long pieces of broccoli to deal with. Okay, so now I'm going to do the test again, and I'm just going to put a couple of them through. Mostly just to see how it does. I probably could have put all of it. What you don't want, and actually even putting all of it may not have filled it out. You want this compartment to be as full as possible because what will happen is it will lean this way and then slice diagonally more and not be as good. And you also want to press down really good. And see, there's still going to be, there's a couple of little pieces. And we'll set these aside. We'll use those in a minute. And I fully realize I'm not doing equal parts of everything, right? Because that's not what I have. And I think it's important to know that you should use what you have. Let's see. I don't know if this one's going to work at all, but let's see. There we go. Let me try one more time. I doubt these are really, I'm going to put, nah. I'm just going to see what'll happen. They're probably not going to do anything. And they didn't. So what I can do is then I can just take this piece. I'll show you overhead, right? And I could just mince it just like I would normally. If I had more broccoli, I probably would just be like, okay, whatever, broccoli, and I would just put it in the compost. But as it is right now, I'm not willing to do that. And do you see how it's a little harder to, it's almost celery-like in its sort of crunchiness. And there's a couple of pieces of broccoli top. I'm going to leave that in there too. And so when you do it this way, I also do my rainbow rice this way. I put everything and then I can put things together if I want, or I can leave some things out for another time. See, that one didn't really get very far. There are a couple of pieces in here that are a little bit like, hey, chop me up. I'm going to leave those over there for later. And then I'm just going to scrape all this out so you can kind of see it, yeah? And see, basically, if you usually just cut off the top of your broccoli and you just compost the rest, you're missing out on free broccoli slaw. Just imagine that if it said, with broccoli, you will now get a bag of free broccoli slaw. And typically what's in broccoli slaw is sometimes they have some red cabbage in there. and some carrots, right? Okay, there you go. This, for those of you who say, this is my trash bowl. It looks delicious too, but, so right now we've got all our Brussels sprouts done. We've got 4 stalks of broccoli done. Let's go ahead and do some cabbage. Like I said, I'm going to set these pieces away. For those who are just joining, ooh, beautiful cabbage. I'm going to take off some of these outer leaves. You don't have to. You could also use these for wraps. They're going to be a little dirtier, and right now I'm being a little more mindful since that was kind of out and about in the grocery. I'm going to take that one off too. Okay. So when I look over, I probably want about the same amount. So let's cut off a piece like this. We'll start with this. We can always do more. And you could do this whole head of cabbage if you want to. I have some other things in mind for it, for some of it. Let's see, let's do a little bit more. And then again, I just want to make sure that it's cut in a way that it can go into the food processor. Do you guys have any questions? And Cheryl, is everything still going okay? Okay. All right, so I'm going to take the big part out. And also, again, if you're just joining, especially, I'm using the small blade because I like to chop my stuff small. If you're looking at that and saying, I really wish that was bigger, just use the other side of your great blade. Okay. See if this is going to go or not. Nope. Mine has a safety so that if I'm using the larger one and this doesn't go in, I can't get it to start. There we go. Okay. And while cleanup is a pain on your food processor, a little bit, in my opinion. So I'm not trying to make that seem like you don't have to do anything, but the way we're doing this is we're basically using it on a bunch of different things. We're going to clean it up once. And I'm thinking when I get off of here, I may do this with some beets as well for some other things in salads that I want to do. Nope. Come on. There we go. And see, there's still some pieces. And I'm okay with that. I'm just not gonna fool with it, honestly. The cabbages I'm actually gonna put together. So you can buy a regular mixed cabbage blend with carrots, right? So you can make all those blends yourself. And one of the things that started all these things is they are actually often a byproduct, right? Like, who's going to sell this, right? But you will buy shredded cabbage because that's okay. You feel okay with that. And there's a couple of leaves in here, and I'll show you. But when I chop up salads, those little bits are going to get chopped up too. And Cheryl likes her, actually let's do it this way so you can see better. Cheryl likes her slaw really cut fine. So even when I buy different cabbages that are shredded and packaged, I have to either put it in the food processor or mince it myself. So it's actually easier for me to do it this way. Since Cheryl's going to be working from home, her work, Novelist, has everybody working from home at least till the end of the month, which means I'm going to be making more food, right? Because she usually eats lunch out or eats just leftovers. And sometimes I'll have a banana for lunch, which is not okay with her. I'll let you see from the top too. And next, I'm going to go ahead and do our carrots. And if you want to be very picky, you can, perhaps it would be good if I put the blade back in. You could wash off, you could rinse everything off. If I get a piece of that in my carrots, I'm fine. Let's put this little guy in there. And so again, these were kind of like renegade, not awesome carrots, which is why I went ahead and peeled them. And I do see a couple of pieces of carrot. Just put that back in. And it's just so easy. And you could, the thing is this stuff keeps a lot longer than lettuce. So you have two choices. So I'm doing a huge batch. If it looks like in 3 or 4 days we're not going through it enough, which I'll be surprised, I could also package some of it up and put it in the freezer. And then that could be for fried rice, for a stew, for a casserole, just for tofu scramble, and just pull it out like that too. So that's another way that I could use this mixture. And I'm just fitting things in here the best I can. And see, I wanted to show you that one. So see how I put it in there and I just put it in by itself, and how now it's really not much has happened to it. So that's why it's better to squeeze in as much as you can. The end. That was the moral. It was a very exciting story, wasn't it? And at some point, right, you're going to end up with whatever little sort of carrot that could, which is going to be that one, I think. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Oh yeah, Cruciferous Crunch and Tofu Scramble is awesome. This is going to do nothing. But I feel like I have to try. I don't know why. So I'm going to put this in the carrot bowl as much as I can. And you can see this is why I don't love using food processors all the time. That's a lot to clean. But if you're prepping basically a whole week's worth of stuff, and I'm going to put these aside with those broccoli stems, and I'm going to cut those by hand a little bit more. Oh, there's another piece in there that needs to have that happen. And you can kind of see from overhead. And also, a lot of this, like, so I do buy shredded carrots to have in there. I buy, and I don't always love, they shred them much thicker, and they're really long. So I find myself prepping them again a little bit differently, which is, I'm just not a fan of doing things multiple times. You can ask Cheryl. Cheryl's like, let's clean the kitchen. And I'm like, let's split up and tackle 2 different things. It's just the way I'm built. And so again, I can take any of these little pieces that didn't make it exactly the way I wanted. And you see from, that didn't look like much carrots. There were only like 4 carrots. This is a lot. So it's cheaper than buying things already done. You pay to have a machine do the second carrots. How about you just buy the seconds from Misfit Market or Hungry Harvest or whatever's available near you and do it yourself and save a lot of money. I like that idea, and I hope you do too. Okay, and there is some cabbage in my carrots, and I'm okay with that. Even if I should go ahead and make carrot cake with this, no one's going to notice there's tiny, a half a teaspoon of cabbage in there. So she won't notice. She thinks, Cheryl says, I'll notice. She will now, but she wouldn't have before, because you don't taste it in that little amount. In fact, we could put a lot more than that. She still wouldn't taste it. Is that going to fit in there? Purple cabbage for the win. Or Oh, I did such a bad job of cutting for this size. So I'm just taking the middle out and breaking it in half. And this is not the freshest cabbage in the world. Okay, let's see what we got here. Oh, actually it didn't do too bad. And I'm going to put the cabbages together, because I like having a nice cabbage mixture to throw into things. Cheryl doesn't like cabbage. She eats a lot more of it than she thinks she does. That's all I got to say. And this is why. It's just easier. Okay, so if we were going to make Cruciferous Crunch, we want to, and actually there's a couple of pieces of cabbage. I'm going to move over to the let's chop it side, and those will go right into our Cruciferous Crunch. Ooh, look at those big guys. They definitely need some help. Anybody else? Yeah, that's good enough. And if you're doing something like making rainbow rice or cauliflower rice, you could take any of this and rice it. And by rice it, I mean, even though this is already kind of small, I could put it back into the food processor bowl with the S blade, right, with this guy, and just pulse it until it's either rice size or couscous size. And I do that in gluten-free vegan cooking in your Instant Pot. I have a recipe for rainbow rice that uses carrots. I don't know if I think I used broccoli. I'm pretty sure I used both kinds of cabbage and things like that. So, and let's get, there's a few little slide pieces of cabbage there. I'm going to take this stuff and put over towards the sink because it needs to get washed really well. And then I will show you how I'm going to cut up some kale. There's green kale, and actually maybe I am going to scrape some of this yummy stuff. I sterilized the counter before I did this, which is why I can scrape all these things off into the bowl. That I'm not going to scrape off into the bowl. And again, so if you just joined us, I see we have some more new people. What we did is we ran some vegetables through a food processor. And we've made ourselves, ooh, I'm not a good stirrer with this one. I think I need a wooden spoon or a paddle. Paddle will do good. And I'm just mixing the purple cabbage with the green cabbage. And I could go a step further, and I can go ahead and add, woo, look at that big guy. And this is not even a whole, it's probably a whole small head of cabbage. And the pieces that I'm taking out, I'm setting aside just to chop manually. And so I have a little pile over that way to do that. Okay. And if it doesn't matter to you, you don't have to do it that way. I'm going to go ahead and take some of my carrots and put in here too, because I'm going ahead and making this like a coleslaw mix. Okay. So this is one place you could stop. And this is a lot of food. And again, if you're one person, you don't have to do this much. That's why there's no numbers in here. We could do 1/4 of a cabbage and a couple of carrots. and that would be fine too. We can also throw this stuff in the freezer. Okay, here's some of the broccoli stems we did. And let's go ahead and put all those in there. I think I'm going to save out certain things, but not all things. Okay. And see, even though we don't have the exact recipe of what Trader Joe's is doing, we still have lots of yummy, yummy stuff right here. I could stop with just the stuff we've shredded. Right? I could stop just with the shredded stuff. And, what the heck. I think it's a Cruciferous Crunch kind of week. We're going to be a little bit quarantined, so we've got yummy, crunchy things we can eat and experiment with. And we can make all different kinds of salads with them. And maybe that's one of the things that I'll show you in the coming week, too. And let's add in, let's see if I can add in all this or not. It's going to be very exciting for me. I hope it's as exciting for you. Move my computer back a little bit. I'm going to use both hands and then I'm just going to wash them in a little bit. So this is without the kale, so I think what I'm going to do for me and for space is I'm probably going to bag this up either in reusable like Rubbermaid containers or glass resealable containers in about what we would use at one time. So I can say, hey Cheryl, grab one of those. And then I might freeze one just in case, and so I can show you how that works too later on. And then I'll add the kale afterwards. Let me get that. But I mean, even just like this, it's already so beautiful. Even though I just found a big old hunk of carrot, you know what I would do with it? Oh, I want to touch my keyboard so bad. Let me wipe some of this off and rinse my hands. I'd rather not have cruciferous keyboard. That sounds like some sort of ailment that we don't need to have. But if you find something like that in your salad, you would do this. That's what I would do. You know, cruciferous does sound like a Harry Potter spell. Cruciferous! And Jackie, that's a perfect question. How long does it stay good in the fridge? It's going to depend on the age of your vegetables. I believe if you use the larger blade rather than the smaller side of the shredding, it probably is going to last a little bit longer. I'm thinking it should last at least 5 days. That is my guess. I will keep you posted. We will be making salads with this, or I will make variations of things for you all week long until it's gone. I have not added my red kale, but I'm going to do that case by case. So if you want, I can chop up the kale now if you want to see how I do it. But basically, I'm just going to chop up the kale. So I'll leave that up to you guys. Oh, what of me doing cruciferous? There's one for you. I don't know if you guys saw some pictures from, I think it was a demo I did, in Worcester, Massachusetts. The place I can't say, but Worcester. I'm trying. I'm not trying to offend any of you who are from there because it was a beautiful place and a wonderful veg fest. But a friend of mine has a picture of me with, holding a wooden spoon going. So I'm like, I have no idea what I was saying at that point. Holding a wooden spoon up in the air, but you just never know, right? So the real answer is I'm not exactly sure how long it's going to last, but that is our experiment for the week. Since it's got cruciferous stuff, the first sign on a whole piece of cruciferous, like let's say cauliflower, you see it get moldy and softer, as well as it's the thing that's in the fridge that smells, right? So we will notice it some because of that. It's going to be wetter because we already like really took it down. I use the smaller blade because I like to chop it up extra anyhow. And I can show you that salad today if you want. I see a lot of you guys are on, so why don't you vote? Are you like, team, make your Asian chopped salad with this mix that you've made? Or would you rather see me just chop up kale? Or are you just ready to make your own cruciferous crunch? Max has an opinion. I don't know if you can, he has a very strong opinion. I think, but that's too bad. He doesn't get to vote. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do is I will make my salad because I brought my ingredients too. I do need to cut a couple of pieces off this apple. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but there are little bits of vegetable everywhere. So this apple has some imperfections and some dings. It's been washed. It is organic, so I'm just going to cut those dings off is what I'm going to do. So let's see that happen. Okay, Asian salad for the win, Joe. And actually that's not even that bad, right? So I'm just going to kind of chop some of this apple. And I may not chop it. You can slice it or chop it. I know that I have this salad chopped pretty well. There are other things you could put in here. This is just the salad I ate yesterday. Now, sometimes when I have this, honestly, I will just eat the little bits and then put it in the compost. Right now, I'm trying to be extra kind, so the extra bits and of some of this other vegetables are going to feed our little crazy chipmunks outside. So, you know, they need help too. Well, they don't really, but they're dumb as dirt and I worry about them is really what happens. We do not have the brightest chipmunks on the block. And if you have super smart chipmunks, maybe you need to tell me your secrets. Now, even though I'm going to chop everything, I found that just slicing it and trying to chop it all together was just not as effective as I would have liked it to be. You could use a pear, you could use grapes, you could use an Asian pear for the Asian salad and be super, super groovy cool. Or you could put dried fruit in there or leave the fruit out entirely. That is really up to you. And I know some of you are on salt. There will be no oil in the salad anyhow, but I will have some salt options and we'll talk about some things that you could use other than that. Okay, so let's do this overhead again. So I'm going to take kind of a few good handfuls and I'm going to go ahead and try and get these other pieces that I knew I wanted to chop up anyhow. And put in my salad so Cheryl doesn't end up getting any big pieces. Right, so that's probably 2 cups, and it just depends on how much you'll eat, right? I am going to put the apple in here. And I would say, gosh, there's at least 12 to 16 cups of the grated vegetable mixture right now. Okay, we've got this. If you drained it, it probably would last longer. Here's the thing. If you made it larger, for sure it would last longer. I would also not put it all together so that at the bottom everything's soaking in the juices. That's why I'm going to put it in smaller containers. And I'm really trying to keep us very hydrated. It's very important right now with all the stressors that are going on. I mean, because at least where I am, I have the house open. It's the allergy season is starting. So there's allergy season, it's cold season, it's flu season, and we're worried about the other virus, the virus that must not be named. So those stressors, the most important thing we can do is try and do some self-care, drink lots of water, stay very hydrated, and eat lots of fresh vegetables, as many different colors as you can, and add in fresh fruit as much as you can. So for me, I don't want to drain the moisture out because I would like that moisture and vitamins to be in my body. So that's my 10 cents, and there is nothing wrong with draining it. So I'm going to take a couple of pieces of kale. Here's how I'm going to do it for right now. And I've already washed this kale. It's kind of stemmy. And I wanted to get red kale just to kind of like break up the colors. The more different kinds of colors we can have right now, it's just another way of helping keep us healthy. We can either shred the kale stems, or we can keep them and we can make like a kale pesto. There's a kale stem pesto on Healthy Slow Cooking. And certainly I am just like saying 2 or 3 leaves, but you could put more too. It's just what you would like. That one's a little extra. So I have some that are older and a little extra crunchy. I don't know if you hear the rustlings of my kale leaves. So I'm going to save these and and there's also a kale stem sauce, which made with this purple would be quite beautiful. And let me get my bigger knife that I brought over. Okay. And if the leaves were larger, I could just have them and roll them together and do this thing called chiffonade. But we're not exactly doing that. I'm just kind of breaking it down a little bit. But we do that often with basil. We make a basil chiffonade. Okay. And actually, I'm going to use a bigger cutting board that I have right over here, just for such an occasion. Put this over by the sink. And also, this is freeing up my vegetable drawers too. So that's why I'm saying I'm also cleaning up my kitchen. Deborah really likes the idea of storing this in serving size containers. Her husband and her have a chopped salad for lunch every day. And yeah, so basically what you're doing by doing this is, instead of doing a little bit of prep every day on Sunday or whenever, like so when we're back into the normal work world where we're all doing what we're used to doing, on Sundays we could prep a big thing of this. Even if it's just for lunches. Like I'm okay if we have potatoes for dinner, if we have a nice salad like this. So I feel like also doing something like this, either in a scramble or a salad, a stir fry, it really gets a lot of vegetables in you. Do I think kale is too strong a flavor to add the stems to homemade vegetable broth? I personally don't find kale that strong. I'm going to cut this because if not, it's never going to get cut. But some people might. I would try it, and if you do try it and you like it or hate it, will you tell us? Because I'd really like to know. Since I make bouillon, I don't really want it in bouillon. I think that would be too concentrated for me, and that's why I don't put a lot of vegetables that might go into a broth into my bouillon paste. And if you're interested in making your own bouillon, just search bouillon on plantbasedinstantpot.com. You don't have to have an Instant Pot to make it. It has instructions for it. I think Healthy Slow Cooking has instructions for slow cooker, stovetop, and oven. Really, you can make it any way you want. You just kind of cook an onion, some carrots. You could roast them. Some celery and some thyme. Puree it together with some nutritional yeast. and freeze it in ice cube trays. And sorry for that non-answer, Jackie, but I'm not positive, so I don't want to give you an absolute answer. But I do think it's worth a try, because if I can have kale be the base for a pesto and a sauce, I don't see why you couldn't use that in a bouillon. And see, this is how I got Cheryl to start eating kale, is that really mincing it as if it was parsley or something. When I'm talking about things like this, I'm sorry, the light isn't very good for that, or it's just a little darker, okay? And I do like the idea of eating a lot of different colors. But so I would just take a handful, and I do this in a lot of my recipes, right? So I'll take a handful of kale and just put it in a soup or a stew before serving. Because when it's this small, when it's this tiny, it's going to cook a little bit fast. So see? And then all I'm going to do with this, okay, so now this is our Cruciferous Crunch. Let's see what other things I have strewn about. With the apple. The apple needs to be cut up some more, in my opinion. When I'm using a chopper, I am using one of these guys, okay? This is one Cheryl's mom brought us from Alaska. This is the more heavy-duty one that is also from Alaska that I picked up at a thrift store for a few dollars. This bowl we got at Walmart for like $4, and it fits pretty close. I don't always do this exactly the way you should do it, but it doesn't really matter. Just chop some stuff up, people. Don't be perfectionists. You're making yourself a beautiful, ginormous salad. What could be better? And I like to think of this apple chopping, and honestly, I could grate up a whole apple before I do it. I don't like to prep the apples too far ahead of time because they get brown. And you could chop it less or more. See, I put in the bigger pieces of things in my bowl, like this giant cabbage leaf. And so that way when Cheryl pulls some out for her own salad, she doesn't have to be bothered with these big pieces. But they're fine, and there's no reason in the world to throw them away, right? You just can kind of move some stuff in. This is a little extra full. So this may be 2 salads for me. But you know what? Since we're putting vinegar in it, it'll be interesting. It should help keep the apples from oxidizing. And so I'll report back on that. With this amount, you could have used 2 apples, right? I am in Durham, North Carolina, Miss Sherry, and Sherry is in Midland, Michigan. How's the weather in Michigan? I would love to know that. Okay. Cheryl says it depends on what time of the day it is. She's from up in those parts. I'm a southern girl. We never take weather for granted. Okay. I did have, there we go. Scrape all this off. And I'm gonna, let's see, I'm just mixing this up a little bit. There's a big old piece of carrot for my mouth. You don't need those fancy choppers. You can use your cutting board. I just know a lot of Chef AJ's people already have it. I don't know why these carrots are tasting so good today. Okay. Thanks for snacking with me. Okay, so this is what we're looking at as our base. Oh, it's chilly and gray in Midland. It's starting to get more gray here, and it's supposed to be chilly here tomorrow. But we've been able to have the house open for 2 days, and that's been very nice. Okay, back to the salad. Okay, So if you had Cruciferous Crunch in your fridge, you would have put some of that out. I also put some extra carrots and cabbage in my salad yesterday. And there's a little more Cruciferous 2 apple in here. So the things that I put in, the main ingredient really is this blackberry ginger balsamic. And the way I do this is I drizzle some on, probably 2 to 3 tablespoons. I would start with 2. If you're using less salad than this, I probably used about 1.5 to 2 yesterday. So I'm going to mix that up really good. I want it to be moist, but I don't want it to be too acidic. I love that. Deborah says, I love the colors. I feel healthy just looking at it. Why, thank you. I appreciate that. Let me see what that Bing was about. I have no idea. Okay. And again, this is enough salad for 2 people. I'm going to do an experiment. Like I said, I'm going to probably eat half of this and put half of it in the fridge and see how it stores with the apples, if the apples turn brown or not. I will eat them even if the apple turns brown. And see, like, these are some of the big pieces I didn't spend enough time cutting up. So let's see what it tastes like vinegar-wise. Okay. I can taste it. It's not overpowering. I might end up putting a little bit more in. If you can have salt, I would put about a teaspoon of tamari or soy sauce or Bragg's aminos or coconut aminos in here. If you can't do salt, use your favorite salt substitute and or just put some garlic powder and onion powder on it. I'd probably start with about a 1/4 teaspoon. You'll probably end up going to a 1/2. So I'm probably going to put, again, about a teaspoon. Not a lot. So again, and you don't have to make it this way. I just thought having the soy sauce made it taste a little more Asian-y for me. And I like that it's blackberry, a fruit, and ginger. You could use garlic. There's a teriyaki balsamic that you could use in this as well instead of it. I have a lemongrass, what is it? Let me find it. It's lemongrass mint and something that's lemongrass mint balsamic. And I got this at like a specialty vinegar place. It's amazing, and it's great for like Vietnamese food, like making a salad like that. And maybe that's something we'll do this week too. Okay, so again, I'm just mixing. And if you're using the garlic powder, don't put this much in your bowl. Don't be like Kathy in this way. I got a little carried away because I'm hungry. I should have used a bigger salad bowl to make this much. Okay. I taste the salt. I would like a little more vinegar, so I'm probably going to put another tablespoon in there, I think. And then another thing that I'm using is the seaweed gamashio, which I'm probably butchering, but what it is, it's a roasted sesame seeds, seaweed, and salt. So again, you can make this, or you could use something like, where are they? There's all these different seaweed kelp seasoning. There's a bazillion different kinds or varieties of seaweed. So you could use this instead, so that it wouldn't have actual salt mixed in. You can roast your own sesame seeds. If you can't have sesame seeds, a little seaweed goes a long way. So I'm going to put those on there. And again, to me, that gives it a little bit of an Asian flavor. I used just a little bit of soy sauce. So even though there is some salt in this, And let's see what it says. It says, wait a minute, I see sugar, sodium. There's 80 in 1 teaspoon. I probably put about a teaspoon, maybe a teaspoon and a half in there. So it's still, compared to that much salt, just plain salt, it's lower in sodium. And like I said, you can make a version of your own or just put some seaweed on there instead. And so I want to make sure to mix this in really good because we put things in different places and it's being held, right? And we want to make sure that it all gets yummied around. For me, a good test when I'm doing this is to look in the middle. Okay, see how there's a little bit of moisture, but there's not pools of moisture. And you can kind of, using a spatula is not a bad thing to do for this because we want to make sure all of this gets kind of marinated in. And some things, if I wasn't doing apple in this, let's say I was doing grapes, this would be awesome to make the day before and let all these flavors really mix in and soak in together. Let me get a fork and see if it's mixed in well together. It could take just a tiny bit less of the vinegar, so maybe next time I do a teaspoon at a time instead of a tablespoon. The 2 salt items together, the little bit of the soy sauce doesn't really give you a lot of salt taste, but it gives you a little bit of that umami taste that soy sauce can. And again, the sesame seaweed salt, and the ingredients are sesame seeds, sea salt, and sea vegetables in that order. And actually, let me let you see it too, so that might help you if you haven't seen it before. I mean, it is mostly not salt. So if I put, let's find out. There's hardly any salt in there at all. I mean, if I'm tasting something like from Trader Joe's or something like that, like the mushroom seasoning, the salt is really forward and it's sesame forward. If you are able to eat seeds, but maybe you can't eat whole seeds, you could drizzle a little bit of tahini in there if you wanted to, but there's no need. Do you guys have any questions? So what we've done today is we've basically grated a bazillion vegetables. We grated up red cabbage, green cabbage, carrots, broccoli stems that we peeled. We chopped up kale separately because I made so much that if I put in my kale right now, it's going to just make it go bad quicker. So I'm going to put the kale in a separate bag and mix it as I'm using it. You can freeze some of it. And again, I'll show you the two together. This is the big bowl of my Cruciferous Crunch. And this is my Asian salad, which is the Cruciferous Crunch with chopped apple, some soy sauce, some blackberry ginger balsamic, and some sesame seaweed salt. So it doesn't take that long to do it. If you know, even if we still probably had all the things grated together in about a half an hour. And this is not something we're going to do every day. This is something, hopefully, that we're going to eat on all week long. So I will keep tabs and I will come back to this video and tell you when it was done, if it's not all eaten up by then. If you have questions about this, please let me know. Leave a message below or a comment. Also, if there's something you want to see, I'm going to try and go live and do some simple things every day this week because it's a stressful time for all of us, and I want to make sure that you know that you have something to do, something new to try, and something to watch to break up, you know, what may be an unusual day schedule for you. And Gary's saying, how much is in the fridge? I'm not sure what you mean. It's like maybe how long it keeps in the fridge. This is a big bowl, so I think this is about 14 cups. It is heavy. I'm not sure how long it's going to keep in the fridge. I'm betting on 5 days minimum. It's going to depend on how small that you grate it. If you grate it a little bit bigger, so on the food processor blade, show you this again real quick. There's a big side and a small side. And so I use the small side because I like to chop everything up very small. You could do the larger size. Also, you can freeze this for cooking. I would not freeze this and then make this salad. It's not going to taste as fresh. The water's going to freeze, burst some of the little veins in it, and so you don't notice that when you cook it because it's wilting. So if you start feeling unsure, go ahead and freeze it, or freeze half for cooking and keep half for fresh. There's only 2 of us, and I'm going to see how far we go from this. So I hope that helps. Anyhow, if you have questions, I know someone from the YouTube channel asked if I can do some simple soup, so that's going to be something I do during the week. So if there's something else you know that you want, it's going to be mostly quick, easy, simple things like this that I'd like to do. What's great about this is you can take one trip to the grocery, or don't forget there's Instacart, and I'll give you a link. I think that I have a code that may get you something off of Instacart. I'm not positive. And you can have them bring all this to you, do this prep, and then you're good to go. Jackie's asking, what would I add when I cook it? So usually I start making a tofu scramble with the normal ingredients that I use for that, like turmeric, kala namak or black salt, whatever herbs and spices I'm feeling like. If I'm making it Mexican or if I'm making it something else, then I take a handful and throw it in. And then I will up the seasonings of that dish. So honestly, I could take some rice, some cooked rice, make stir-fried rice with this. I probably would cook some onions and peppers, garlic, soy sauce, or tamari, bragg, something like that. Put the rice in. You could even do some tofu that you've squished up with some turmeric and some kala namak to be your egg element, or not at all. And then I would just throw it in. It's going to cook very quickly, so I throw this in near the end. So I usually have most of the water cooked out of my tofu, and I've got it chopped up well in the pan. Then I throw in a handful of this. And Dawn wants me to do the miso dressing from Breads on Oak. I wish I had some with me, but I will do my best. But that may be down the pipe. That may not be this week, but we'll see what I can do. If nothing else, I will make some sort of miso kind of dressing with one of these salads. I'll try and do a bunch of these salads, different variations, okay? But keep leaving messages. Let me know how you're doing. Don't forget, if you're at home, you're bored, I've got lots of live videos if you want to watch cooking. I'm also on my personal page, Kathy Hester. I'm going to try and do this in my group too, which is Vegan Recipes, Cooking with Kathy Hester. And if you don't want to answer all the questions, just tell me you saw me here, or say Kathy sent me, or something like that, and say, and I'll let you in. But I'm putting things like there's museums that you can visit virtually. There's the Met Opera is going to do something every evening that you can watch from your home. So instead of thinking of it as being sequestered, think of it as a really great way to reboot, really get on whatever your plan and goals are, and have the opportunity, like you're in a new city, to go see new things. You're just going to see them online instead. It's awesome. So I will see you guys sometime tomorrow. I have yet to decide what I'm going to make. As I clean out the fridge, that will become much more apparent to me. Wash your hands a lot. Stay home if you can. And be well. Okay? And I'll talk to you guys soon.